Next slide, please. Hi, everyone. My name is Danica LaFortune. I am a paid leave ambassador with SPAN. I am also someone who used paid leave for myself when I had my daughter in 2020. I'm also a doula and a community health worker, so I have and still do share this information with just about anyone I can come in contact with that I feel would benefit them to know this information. So I come with firsthand experience about how beneficial this benefit is for people in New Jersey. So overview, the US is virtually the only nation in the world without national paid family leave. Although we are one of the wealthiest nations, we are one of the ones that we don't have a national paid leave here for us. Next slide. But New Jersey has had a paid leave program since 2009, and it was expanded in 2019. So thankfully for me, it was expanded right before I actually used it. So I was very grateful for that. The program is called New Jersey Family Leave Insurance, or your healers refer to it as FLI. Next slide.
Oops.
No, good. So the value of paid leave for families. Paid family leave helps to advance health equity for families. It improves the child and mother health. It strengthens families' economic well-being to be able to get that income coming in, even though they're staying home. It helps address racial and gender inequities in health, the workplace, and earnings, and so much more, as we'll see as we get into the particulars of this benefit. Next slide. The value for employers. So it helps with employee retention, which reduces turnover costs, which is always great. It boosts employees' productivity, morale, and job satisfaction, knowing that you are able to take leave, this paid leave when needed, and it is supported by your employer, definitely helps with productivity and morale and job satisfaction. It makes the employee want to stay with that employer. And it increases employee health, lowering long-term healthcare costs. Next slide, please. And please bear with me. I am a little under the weather today. I'm trying not to sniffle too much in your ears. Okay, so we're just going to go over some real life scenarios. And I just want you to keep these families in mind as we continue to go through the presentation, okay? And then towards the end, we'll discuss how we'll kind of brainstorm how we could help these families with paid leave, okay? Next slide. So the first family that we're going to talk about is Shadiah and Maya. Shadiah is a first-time new mom. She works as a per diem nurse at a local hospital. Her daughter, Maya, was born premature. Shadiah took paid temporary disability leave for 6 weeks, and then she went back to work. Maya is now ready to go home from the hospital, and Shadiah has been diagnosed with postpartum depression. Shadiah is unsure what options she has to be able to take care of herself and her needs, as well as bond with her baby. So let's keep her in mind. Next slide. Okay, our next family is Alice and Emily. Alice is Emily's mother. She's a single parent and works full-time for a large retail chain. Emily has an IEP and attends her neighborhood school. She will be undergoing a surgery that requires about 3 weeks of recovery time. Alice is struggling with being able to attend her daughter's IEP meetings and how to care for her after the surgery. She needs to keep working for income and is worried about losing her job. Okay, so let's just keep these two families in mind as we go through the presentation. So more about New Jersey Family Leave Insurance, or FLI. Next slide. So who and what can use this benefit, right? What can we use it for and who's eligible? So this can be used for bonding, which many people know. This usually happens after temporary disability with pregnant people. However, this FLI can be used for bonding for both parents, okay? So that can be the mom and dad, mom and mom, dad and dad, whatever that family dynamic looks like. This can be used for both parents. They can use it at the same time if they choose. This is also used for bonding with a child that might have been adopted or new placement for a foster child. So a lot of people don't know that part of it as for bonding. They think of it as just for the birthing family or the birthing mother, but it can, again, it can also be used for placement for a foster child or a newly adopted child.
All right.
Also, oh, yes.
I'm sorry. Is this
You're
where you
fine.
want to be? I apologize.
You're fine. You're
Okay.
fine. And again, both parents can use it. Okay, next slide.
God,
One
I
more.
shouldn't have come to work today. Sorry.
Caring for a loved one. Some people know about this one. Workers can take family leave insurance to care for a family member or loved one with a physical or mental health condition. And the great part about this is a loved one is any individual who's considered family. So if I have a best friend, my best friend that I grew up with, I consider her my sister. She can take this leave to care for me if needed. So again, a healthcare provider must certify the health condition, but the family member or loved one can really be anyone that you would consider to be family. It doesn't really have to be a blood relative or even your immediate family member. It can be anyone that you would consider to be family. But again, for caregivers, a doctor does have to certify on the health condition. Next slide. And this one, as a community health worker, when I found out about the use of being able to use family leave for either the survivor of domestic or sexual violence or the caregiver of the survivor, I was just eager to share the information because this, I believe, is the most underused people that are eligible for this benefit. So again, this can be the actual survivor or the person that is giving care to the survivor. So the workers themselves or those caring for the loved one who is a victim or survivor can take FLI. And again, remember, the caregiver can be anyone that they would consider to be family. And they can use this leave to seek actual medical attention, to attend therapy, to access victim advocacy or legal services if they need to recover at home, to seek safe shelter, and anything else that might be related to care or recovery for the survivor. So I like to share this one. I like to spend a little time there again because a lot of people don't know that the survivor and the caregiver can use this benefit. Next slide. So eligibility, what does that look like? Family leave insurance is available to most employees working in New Jersey. The following groups, unfortunately, are not eligible yet. We're working on it. Federal government employees, out-of-state employees. So if you happen to live in New Jersey, but maybe work out of state, work in New York or Pennsylvania, and workers that are not technically employees, such as contractors, anyone who fills out a 1099, or are considered contractors at an organization, they unfortunately would not qualify or be eligible for this benefit. Next slide. So wage requirements to qualify for family leave insurance. In 2022, you have to have at least worked 20 weeks, earning at least $240 weekly, or earned a combined total of $12,000 in the base year, which is about 18 months prior. In 2023, it'll change a little bit. You have to still have worked at least 20 weeks, earning at least $260, or earned a combined total of $13,000 in the base year. And I'd like to just clarify that the 20 weeks does not necessarily have to be at a single employer, okay? It can be multiple employers. It can include your full-time, and if you have a part-time job, that also is included in the 20 weeks, okay? So just for some clarity, it doesn't have to be with one employer. Next slide, please. So benefits are paid now at 85% of workers' average weekly wage, compared to 65%. Like I said, when I personally took this benefit, it had just changed from the 65 to 85%, so I was ecstatic. The maximum weekly benefit, 2022, is currently $993, and it will increase to $1,025 going into the new year, and that's weekly. Benefits are available up to 12 consecutive weeks, and that's usually where we see the birthing parent how they're using their time. Like I said, again, they'll go from that temporary disability and they can take this right after it. And usually they'll use it for the 12 consecutive weeks. That's how I use my leave. But it doesn't have to be used that way. Or 56 days or 8 weeks if taken intermittently. Again, remember I said that both parents can use it. So the one parent might choose to use it for the 12 weeks consecutively. The other parent might want to use it intermittently as needed, as long as the time is used within that first year of birth or that first year of placement. It just has to be used within the 12 months. So, steps to take. The first thing you definitely want to do, of course, is inform your employer that you are looking to take this time for binding 30 or 15 days notice, if possible, and for caregiving, a reasonable notice or 15 days. We know sometimes with health emergencies, you can't always give that much notice, but whatever is reasonable notice for your employer, or at least 15 days, at least 2 weeks. You also want to visit myleavebenefits.nj.gov, where you can file 100% online. You can actually start your application 60 days before taking the leave or 30 days after actually starting that leave. Okay. And again, everything is right there online. For caregiving, again, a doctor must certify the condition. A healthcare provider certifies the loved one's condition in Part C of the application. And I will say that you want to make sure that you follow up with your provider, that they do their part for Part C within 14 days. If their part is not filled out within that 2-week time frame, your claim will be delayed. It might be hard to restart that claim or to try to get back into continuing the process. So you definitely want to make sure that you follow up with your provider, that they're doing their part. Next slide. Some tips to help you along the way. Again, you want to try to plan ahead as much as possible. We understand, again, sometimes emergencies happen, especially illnesses and sicknesses, and you can't. But as much as possible, especially with a pregnancy, you want to, try to plan. You want to visit the resources provided in this presentation. There will be tons of resources for you to look into. You want to speak with your coworkers and employer about taking leave to understand the process. And again, you can apply online when you stop working, okay? Key. Remember your password and keep it safe. This can be one of the most frustrating things when you are trying to log into the website to update information or complete your application and you don't remember your password. It's not the easiest thing to try to reset it. So you definitely want to remember that you write it down and you keep it safe and remember it. You will be paid via a Money Network, My Banking Direct Deposit, Visa debit card. When I had taken the leave, it was a Bank of America debit card. I will also say that if you had unemployment before and you were getting benefits on that card, I believe it's less than 5 years, they might actually start loading the benefits onto that old card that you had, which actually happened to me. They were loading benefits on a card that I had when I believe it was unemployment. I don't know what it was, but they were loading onto that old card that I had. And I was like, hey, they were showing that my benefits were already starting to come in, but I wasn't getting them. So I had to reach out to them, get a new card to be able to get my benefits. If you need medical care certification, you want to, again, follow up with your provider, because if they don't do their part within the 2 weeks, your claim will definitely be delayed. Okay, next slide. I think that's it for me. Yep. Yarrow.
Thank you, Danica. That was great. So I'm going to now segue into related programs and laws. It's a lot of information, and this is where sometimes it gets a little sticky and confusing. So hopefully we can strike a delicate balance of not overwhelming you with information. All right, next slide. So Danica did mention temporary disability insurance, because that is frequently how people are going to start their paid leave benefit if they are taking it for reasons related to pregnancy or recovery from pregnancy. But this is important to know. Temporary disability is actually available for other reasons where workers are unable to work for any physical or mental health condition. But in terms of pregnancy, typically a pregnant individual will be eligible for temporary disability 4 weeks before their due date, and then 6 to 8 weeks after, depending on their delivery. The 6 weeks is for a vaginal delivery, and the 8 weeks is for a cesarean. But there could be additional disabling conditions, including not just physical disabling conditions, but also mental health conditions that could extend the amount of time that the pregnant individual or the recovering from pregnancy or a new situation like postpartum depression that can actually come up, much later after someone delivers. So they have available to them actually 26 weeks in a year. So anyone has that, I should say, but people often think it's only the 4 weeks and the 6 to 8 weeks after for the pregnant individual. It could potentially be more. And most employers are required to provide temporary disability insurance, but there are a few exemptions. So that's municipal county employers. That's a lot of public school teachers. They're not required to participate in this. They may tell you about how you could purchase your own private plan. And then some employers also provide the temporary disability insurance through a private plan if they're required to do so. So that would go through like an Aetna or another carrier, but it has to meet the minimum standards of the state temporary disability insurance, which pays the same amount as family leave insurance. Next slide. And it's important to know that you can also access temporary disability insurance for reasons related to domestic violence when you have a care provider certifying your claim for, again, your physical or your mental health condition. So in terms of the family leave insurance covering reasons related to domestic violence, that's for something where a doctor isn't going to certify your health, mental or physical health condition. But if you have a mental health or physical condition, this is what you would take. I want to say we're gonna get to questions at the end. So we'll go through all your questions in the chat and feel free to add your questions in the chat as we go. Next slide. And we put in some QR codes so that, when we send you the slides, or if you wanted to see more detailed information and links, you can just scan that and get the links there. But now I'm going to talk about really one of the most confusing aspects of taking leaves, not just retaliation, but job protections. Next slide. So oftentimes we kind of conflate paid family leave with FMLA. People say, oh, I'm going to take my FMLA really soon. But what they actually are talking about is their FLA paid benefit. So FMLA refers to your job protection. It's the federal Family and Medical Leave Act. We also have a state version, which is the Family Leave Act, or the FLA. And both of these laws may protect your job while you're on leave, but you have to look at your eligibility for job protection if that is a concern to you. But you don't have to be eligible for job protection to be eligible for your paid leave benefit. And that is where we get the most confusion and complications, because people think, oh, I'm not eligible for family leave insurance for the paid benefit because I haven't been in my job a year, or I don't have 30 or more employees. That's only for job protection. So just very briefly, not to confuse you, FMLA covers people who have been at their job for a year. They've worked 1,250 hours in that year, and they have at least 50 employees within 75 miles. New Jersey Family Leave Act, not family leave insurance, covers workers for job protection after they take leave. If they've been there a year, they've worked 1,000 hours in that year before taking leave, and they have 30 or more employees. So it's a little confusing. Next slide. We do have some graphics that help you kind of understand the distinction between job protection and retaliation, and we'll get to those. But first, want to also just make sure everyone is aware that in our paid leave law, there are parts that say the employer cannot take action, retaliation against an employee when they attempt to take or they try to take their TDI or FLI benefits. So this can be anything from reducing your salary, your job duties, changing your responsibilities, excluding you from meetings, or other forms of retaliation, harassment, discrimination. If you can, say that this is something that you believe is connected to your efforts to take your leave, then you may have some additional protections. Next slide. Yeah, so these are the graphics. They look really complicated, on this slide, but we will send these to you after, and you kind of take each one separate. The one on the left, taking leave, is a summary of the wage replacement, the temporary disability insurance, and the family leave insurance. And then on the right, job protection under the FMLA and the New Jersey Family Leave Act. So it gives like an overview, and then the little graphic on the right also provides an overview, but specifically around eligibility. And you can see here eligibility for temporary disability insurance and family leave insurance. Family leave insurance is what Danica described, and I mentioned temporary disability. The eligibility and the benefits for those programs are the same. And then the job protection is what I just reviewed with you. So yes, it is complicated. You don't have to remember every single aspect of this, but just understanding that there is a distinction is really a good place to start. Next slide. Okay, and so we want to just give you a little quick overview of another law that covers workers' rights to take time off for reasons related to their health and caregiving, and that's Earned Sick and Safe Days law. Go to the next slide, please. Yes, so this is a law that was passed in 2018, and it's a floor. It's a basic minimum that all employers must provide at least 5 paid sick days or 40 hours a year. The employer can require workers earn the time. So for every 30 hours that they work, they would earn 1 hour of sick time. And you get paid your regular rate, but directly from your employer. You do not have to go to the state to apply for your benefits. And these time can be used for your own health, caring for a loved one, to address issues related to domestic violence, if the school were to be closed during a public health emergency, and also if there's any appointments at the school for your child that would include IEP meetings or other meetings that the school asks you to attend. And one thing it is important to note that this covers anybody regardless of their immigration status. In terms of the family leave and the temporary disability insurance benefits, currently, you do have to have a valid Social Security number. So that's a distinction between this and what we described previously. Next slide. This is just, again, a little summary overview of how you can use earned sick days as a working parent. I think everybody who has a kid right now either has a kid that has been sick, you're worried they might get sick, or they're getting over sickness. Danica, yeah. And they may have gotten you sick. We're all sick. So the point is we all deserve the right to have paid time off to care for our kids, be with our kids, but also just for regular meetings, like I said before, school-related conferences or events. And so this is a really important point that we want to make sure everyone's aware of. Next slide. Okay, so just to be clear, earned sick leave, while it is very generous and does cover everyone regardless of immigration status, it doesn't matter the size of the employer either. There are a few exemptions, and one of those in particular to note is that per diem healthcare workers are not covered by earned sick days. Also, if you're a public employee who already gets sick leave, you're not going to be covered by this law. It's not going to provide you with any additional time. Okay, next slide. All right, so yeah, we're here to our Q&A. We are gonna, let's see, we'll go through the questions in the chat, and then anyone who has questions can come off mute or raise your hand. I think the first question, if I'm not mistaken, is if a New Jersey company has workers living out of state, are they covered under FLI? So really the requirement here is just that you have to work in New Jersey. So in some cases, you may used to have worked in the city or in Pennsylvania, and now you're working at home. Technically, you need to talk to your HR and you need to make sure they're deducting your payroll taxes for this program, but you should be able to be covered as long as you're working in New Jersey. It doesn't matter if the employer is located in California, New Jersey, or anywhere else, as long as you yourself are working in New Jersey. As an employee, again, you can't be an independent contractor. You do have to be considered an employee.
Yeah, can I clarify?
Yes.
I have an employee who lives in Michigan. Their work is 100% remote. Their clients that they see are all in New Jersey.
Oh, that is interesting, but they are working in Michigan, so no, they are not covered. If for whatever reason you would like to get kind of more legal advice about that, I do recommend, because I haven't actually heard of a situation like that, but the statute is very clear that you do have to work in the state of New Jersey the majority of your time. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so let's see. I'm gonna scroll down. Does anyone else see a question here next?
Yes, I'm reading one here. What if the family member who is sick lives out of state? Can a doctor's note from the sick family member's designated country suffice for the caretaker's FLI application? So is it out of state or out of country? There's two different things in this question. I'm not sure.
It's a different question, right? So this is about someone going somewhere to take care of a loved one,
Right.
right?
Yeah, Marianne, do you want to unmute and clarify what you're asking about? I just want to make sure what you're asking about state or versus country.
Yeah, thank you. I actually meant out of country.
Okay,
So like I said, like so you have a parent or somebody in another country and you're taking leave to care for them because they're going through.
Yeah. So I have a client whose mom is ill in Ecuador.
Yeah, so they would definitely be able to take this. The complicating thing is, of course, the medical certification. Now, the ability to do the medical certification online may make it easier, but language could be a barrier, just depends. There's all sorts of ways to try to troubleshoot that other people have been through that we could try to connect with that person. But it is legally something they can definitely do as long as they can get that doctor in that other country to certify the claim. But like I said, they can do it online.
Okay, thank you.
here's another one. Are the 26 weeks of TDI in addition to the 8 or 12 weeks of FLI?
Okay, you want to take that?
Sure. So yes, if you had to take your entire 26 weeks of TDI, which in my case I had to do, I went out early in my pregnancy. So I had extended time of my TDI, and then yes, I went right into my FLI.
And there's another related question, Danica. Generally, new parents take TDI first and then FLI. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I see I'm a little confused about how TDI works with private employer TDI plans.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, is that like it becomes a mandate that if an employer is doing it, that it's just a baseline? Or I'm just a little confused how those interact.
I mean, the law says basically that, if you're covered, if you're covered, you're not one of those types of employers I mentioned before, the municipal and county workers, county employers are not required to participate. Otherwise, federal workers, I should say, are also, of course, exempt. But the employer has to have you either paying your payroll taxes to the state plan, or they have to set up a private plan through. There's a lot of third parties that do that now. So you see it more common with TDI than FLI. But that plan has to actually be approved by the state, and it has to have the minimum standards as what the state provides. And that is a glaring issue that we don't have a lot of data on as researchers that looking to understand more. That would be an area we would love more information, because we hear a lot of stories of people being told by their private temporary disability plan that they aren't covered at the same amount that the state provides, which is not legal. And so what somebody could do is they can file an appeal or a complaint with the state to look into it. That goes for if they're denied. If they think that they have a medical certification and that private insurance isn't providing it, they can actually send their denial, and the state will look into that.
And so I'm sorry to follow up, but so somebody, if the person gets it with the private employer, they don't also get it with the state.
Yeah, that's right.
It's one of the other. Okay.
Yeah, there's sometimes unique situations depending on when someone started a job and like things like that. But generally speaking, that is true. Yeah. And then I see someone said, you recommend applying for FMLA right away or closer to the date when I may need it. I can give an example if needed. I think you're not saying FMLA. I think you're saying FLI. You're talking about your paid benefit, correct? Charlene, if you want to come off mute, you feel free.
Yes, that's what I meant.
Yeah, so if you're talking about temporary disability and then FLI, is that right? Or are you talking just straight bonding leave?
I'm not sure. Can I just give you an example?
Sure.
I have a family member that's been recently diagnosed with a mental illness, and I know they have like upcoming IEP appointments, upcoming therapy appointments that I need to attend. But it's like, and it's gonna extend to like 6 to 8 weeks. So would you recommend I start that process now or wait until like the actual appointments are approaching?
I think it's better to wait until the appointments are pushing or when you know exactly when you're going to be out. You can actually apply for your paid benefit after the fact, retroactively, so to speak, 30 days after your leave starts. Even later, if you can just justify why you're applying later. But generally speaking, you can do the application early, but I have heard some stories that make me think it doesn't really give folks the advantage they think it does. And that there's no harm in actually waiting until you're out on leave, because then you have more clarity about your dates. And hopefully you'll also have the conversation with the care provider and know that they're going to be able to certify it right away. And that's all sort of figured out. Once you start your application online, you're going to get a code that you can then provide to the provider so that they can do that and certify online. So I think it's usually much more streamlined. And Danica, I don't know if others have had other experiences, but I think if you start it after you actually are taking it, it seems to me to run a little smoother. But also, just word of caution, taking intermittent leave is not easy. It is not it's applying for the benefit, and overall, the state has a clunky old system. And I like to just caution people, like, be prepared for some bumps along the way.
Yara, I see a question I missed earlier. Sue was asking if an employee can take New Jersey paid sick leave without providing a reason to use up their available time. I don't know, Sue might want to unmute and clarify that.
You don't have to provide a reason to take earned sick leave, unless, I shouldn't say that. You don't have to provide a doctor's note unless you've been out 3 consecutive days under the earned sick leave law.
So I have 2 employees who are leaving us and have earned somewhere around 35 hours of this sick leave. And they want to get paid out that amount of time.
Mm.
The law does not require you to pay it out.
Okay.
You can absolutely do that.
Okay, thank you.
But the website has a lot of information. Our presentation, I should say, is not oriented for employers, if you didn't notice. But the website does have a lot of really great information for you, for the employers. Yeah. Okay.
There's one more here. All earned sick time is required to be utilized prior to taking TDI or FLI, correct?
Yeah, so the law is only really clear for state workers. State workers can only be required to use, I believe, up to 2 weeks of their sick time unless they only have a week left, and then, or 2 weeks left, and then they can only be required to use 1 week. So there are some limitations if you're a state worker, but if you are any other type of worker, the law doesn't prevent the employer from requiring you to take your PTO or your sick time before you take temporary disability. It does, however, prevent the employer from requiring you to take that time before your family leave insurance. So you cannot be forced to take your PTO, your paid sick days, or any of that before your family leave insurance.
I think that's all right now. We did have a person join pretty late, Yarrow, and I did put in the chat that we're in the Q&A portion at this point. We are recording it. I'm not sure where we'll make that recording available, but we also will be doing more sessions in 2023, starting in February.
Okay, and are we ready to move to our breakout? I should just pause and say if anyone else wants to come off mute or ask any questions before we do our breakout groups. We're going to get into it a little bit more, and I think it'll help folks process the information when we do our breakout groups. Now's your time. Don't hold back. Okay.
Quick question. I actually have a client. It's the same client that I was asking about before. So she's originally Ecuadorian, from Ecuador. But the thing is, like, she's working in the New Jersey public school system, and so she's not really aware of her rights. So I don't. She works as a janitor. Do you know by any chance if she would qualify for any of these because of her
Of course.
situation? She would. Okay.
The only exemption for municipal or because her employer is probably the Board of Education,
Heard about
right?
it. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, so she's just exempt from temporary disability insurance, the state
Okay.
temporary disability insurance. She's eligible for family leave insurance as long as she's met the minimum earnings, earning 200, yeah, you got that. And job protection, of course, as well, would cover her depending on the eligibility. The other thing is for a lot of those types of workers, they may want to think about contacting their union. They may have a contract. It may be useful to do that, but this is the basic standard of what the law requires of everyone. So a union member may have more benefits. It's
Yeah.
not necessary that they have to double check, like these laws apply to people regardless, right? But that's just another resource that might be helpful for her.
Okay. Okay. Great. Thank you.
One more question, Yaro. It's a little lengthy, so let me read it to you. If an employee returns from maternity leave, having used TDI and FDI, and the employee was informed they need to wait 3 months to review for a raise to ensure the employee will be staying, is this something that would be considered retaliation?
Potentially. The honest truth is the details matter about individuals' situation and their case. And I think, you know, with somebody's in a situation where they might be experiencing retaliation, or, you know, being threatened to be fired or actually fired, it's really important that they just take a lot of records and notes and have things documented as best as possible. And we can refer them. We'll give you the resource at the end here, but we can refer folks where if they need additional support, whether that be potentially legal support or contacting the Division of Civil Rights, which oversees the Family Leave Act, or you know, trying to file a claim, a private right of action, if they do feel that they've been retaliated against.
Yeah, I think that's it from the chat.
Okay. So are we ready to go? I'm gonna, yeah,
Did you created the breakout rooms, right? Yaro?
yes, I did. You're gonna actually be in one, but you can leave it.
Okay, that's fine. I'll come back to the main room just in case anybody gets bumped out, and needs to go back in.
And actually, Janine, maybe you can go in there and I'll come in and meet you because I'm not in it yet. So I'll come in to your room in a minute.
Okay, sounds good.
I don't know why it's doing it like that, but all right, let's keep the conversation. Could you actually put up the slide with the scenarios again? Is that possible? So people could see
Sure.
those?
Sure. Well, there are two different slides though. Do you want me to show? I can.
The one at the end, I think. Didn't we have the summary?
Yes.
Yeah,
we did.
Thanks everyone for,
Let me get this up and let me share my screen. Give me 1 second.
so what we're going to do is the scenario that Danica shared, the two scenarios, we're going to go over those, review those and discuss them in our breakout groups. And we can also discuss any other scenarios. Like I know some of you already have mentioned some scenarios, but if you can kind of be creative and think about other situations that you might encounter in your work or in your interactions with folks, we can do that as well. But these are the two scenarios that we're going to discuss and see what we can help these folks do. All right, so we're going to get that started and hopefully it'll help it all sink in a little more. All right. Hi, Rima. Hi, Jennifer. Are you there?
The Nika's group came back a few minutes ago, and then the other two are joining us now. While we're waiting, I'm going to put a link in the chat. That is the link to a folder you can access. It has New Jersey Department of Labor publications about paid family leave. They're downloadable. Most of them are in English and Spanish, and some are available in other languages as well. And if you want to order hard copies, there's a form to do that, and I'll put that in the chat also. We encourage you to, if you're, interact with families, caregivers, others who might benefit from understanding more about paid family leave, feel free to order these free publications and share them with people that you interact with.
Yep, and I just launched our final poll just to see how everyone's feeling regarding their understanding of paid family leave after this training.
Can you hear the cartoons in the background here?
No.
That's just the sick kids
Oh, geez.
taking advantage of the.
The fact that mom's busy.
I even texted my mom and was like, can you call the doctor for me? And I need to, I'm not feeling well. So
We
even
should have
though it's
done-
like 2023, 24, we're still asking for our moms to take care of us when we're sick.
Aw, I hope my kids do that.
They probably will.
I was gonna say, I love that you feel that you can call your mom to do that for you. That says a lot. I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, when I was living, in college, even when there was a bug in my house, I would call my mom and be like, I don't know what to do. And she's like, just get rid of it. But I just need that comfort,
All right, looks like we've got a lot of responses here. Share the
Yep,
results.
and it looks like most people understand paid family leave in New Jersey well now and feel like they could help others. And some understand it a little bit. And if you guys do have any questions, after this, you could feel free to reach out to me or Yarrow, and we could, give you a little bit more guidance.
So, Janine, can you share your screen to remind everyone where we were at with the scenarios, and then we're going to finish it up
Sure.
with the rest of the slides. Do we want to go ahead and do feedback? What's the word?
Quick debrief.
Debrief, yes. So who wants to go first? Group one?
Well, that's crazy, huh? Group one going first.
That was us. And if you're able and willing, Edward, I'd like for you to share on Shadaya, what we came up with her.
Sure. So for Shadaya, we determined that she'd be eligible for the FLI and then the temporary disability insurance on top of that, hopefully with a certification from a provider who is not a therapist, which our group found to be rather interesting. So those two pieces to support her caring for the child and then the postpartum.
Yes, and that was a question. Thank you, Edward. That was a question that came up, like Edward said in our group. Why is a therapist not eligible to be able to certify for mental health concerns? So, and we just kind of said that is what this the rules of the state are. So that can make it a little tricky sometimes when providers need to certify for mental health concerns. Thank you, Edward. And we all agreed in those benefits for Shadaya.
I just want to clarify though, you didn't mean at the same time.
No. We all do understand that they cannot be used at the same time, right? that they're generally used after one after another.
Okay, anything else from Alice or Emily's scenario, or anything else that came up in your discussion?
Adrian, would you like to share about Alice, if you're able and willing?
Sure. So with Alice, we decided that she's going to use earned sick leave first, and then she'll apply for family leave insurance. And to protect her job, she'll qualify under New Jersey FMLA. Not at the same time.
Thank you. And we all did agree that because she was at her large chain retail employer for more than a year, that she would not have to worry about her job, that she would be covered under the FMLA, that she could use the earned sick days for the IEP meetings, and then that she would also be eligible for the FLI after Emily's surgery. Thank you, Adrian.
Awesome. Okay, group 2, was that my group?
Yes.
I think it
group
was.
two.
Okay, Marty, I don't know what kind of takeaways you want to share, but yeah, we had some other things that came up too.
Yeah, so we similarly talked about FLI and TDI. We talked about kind of putting at the forefront, this is for Shadaya, like sort of what she wants in terms of whether it's consecutive or intermittent, what would be more useful for her with the FLI at least. And we then talked about some of the issues around actually just, getting the doctor's note, and we were talking about sort of the culture, like how that can be, sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's not. We talked about that point about the therapist not being able to certify. And so then Yarrow shared with us a link that actually, a website, New Jersey My Leave Benefits, that has an interface for medical practitioners that we can, kind of help advocate for somebody, for their doctors to be informed about what's needed and when it's needed and that. Anyone else from my group want to add to that? No?
And that healthcare providers cannot charge you to fill out your paperwork.
Yeah, and then there were a few other questions we wanted to ask her about her situation, if she's been there for more than a year, and that. Okay, and then should I move to Alice? Is that good? Okay, so for Alice, the first question that was posed is finding out policies where she works, or if she's part of a union. So kind of like if we don't always immediately know, like finding out, helping the person point them in the direction of resources that they have through their employer or their union. But we came to the same conclusion about using the FLI and also earned sick days, particularly for the IEP meetings, to make sure that she knows that those earned sick days can be used for those meetings, because sometimes even employers will tell you that you can only use sick days for yourself, not for a dependent. So making sure that's clear. And then we had a discussion about how to make claims against an employer in the circumstance where where a person is not getting the leave that they should be getting. Trying to think if there's anything else that sort of the big points that we made. I think that's the main coverage. Thank you.
Group 3?
Yeah, so for scenario 1, we started by going over qualifications for per diem employees, and we really clarified just eligibility when taking FLI and TDI, and we also clarified that this can be taken consecutively, such as FLI after TDI, not at the same time. We also talked about postpartum depression being a qualifying reason. and also being able to take FLI for bonding after taking TDI. For scenario 2, we're having a lot of questions about taking intermittent leave. I don't remember who said it, but if you actually want to, I think it was Charlene.
Yeah, it was me of Yarrow. If you can or do you have any information as to why, it'd be, they give, it's so many bumps in the roads, or they give you, kind of such a hard time if you do decide to take that leave intermittently.
Yeah, I just want to say very quickly that it's basically the system was built in the 80s and hasn't been updated. And the Murphy administration is trying to modernize the system, but as advocates, we will continue to actually push the state to do better. And we will invite you all to be part of that when we're trying to improve things. That's the next step. We only have 4 more minutes. So Nat, if you could sum up, and then we'll go to the next slides just to give everyone a little kind of final pitch.
Yeah. So, after we were, just going through the second scenario, we had just a discussion kind of, we had a big discussion about, how difficult the system could be when it comes to applying and delays. And we were discussing the barriers that people face when it comes to being able to apply, such as, lack of awareness, some people not being tech savvy, and some people not wanting to put themselves through the process because they've had so much trouble. So yeah, that's what we talked about.
Janine, I don't know what next slide is. I hope it's helpful. But
I believe it's resources. Let me check.
Yeah, but one question I think also is, please let us know. We will follow up with you with these resources. And Janine mentioned the printed materials, but what else do you need? What else would be helpful? As you look to helping guide people, support people, about accessing their rights and their benefits, what else would be helpful? I think we talked about in our group also, and this seems like it came up for a few of you, that there isn't a lot of support from the state or elsewhere to help people fill out their claims. And then actually, in part, while this isn't like a requirement of doing this training, we are hoping that we can support you all so that you can support others as best you can in accessing their benefits. Yeah, go ahead, Mariana.
So I didn't see it on the resources. I don't know if I'm missing it in that folder. Is there a cheat sheet that describes little bullet points of each of these? What would you categorize them, like FMLA and F? What is it? The other F?
So the little graphic that we provided. Can you go to the next slide as well?
Sure.
Oh, right. Okay. So this is to reach out to Danica. And then I don't know if we have another
Sure.
slide, and if not, you can stop sharing.
Oh, this is the, they're looking for folks to, New Jersey parents to help complete a survey for feedback. So if you are a New Jersey parent, or some New Jersey parents, please share this. You scan the QR code and request the survey, and people who completed are compensated $25 it's really just to try to help make sure the information is being shared, is being put together in a way that's effectively communicates the information to families. So let me see what else. Okay, we already had that.
Okay.
That is it. Do you want me to show? Let's go ahead.
I'm gonna share my screen. Whoops, move it over, make it a little smaller. Hold on, trying to adjust. As we close this out, just want to make sure everyone knows we are asking you to fill out the form for the gift certificate for participating today. We'll make sure you did that. This probably won't be sent out until January, so thanks for your patience. You will get an email from us. If you have any other feedback or questions, we'll ask you to be in touch with us. And as we continue to build the effort to improve access to paid leave, we would invite you to come and be part of that. We are going to be launching a paid leave advocate group. We'll be doing some more intensive trainings, more around advocacy and organizing. So if that's something of interest to you, stay tuned for more. And then this is just a little visual so you can see some of the materials. I think, Mariana, you will it's maybe not one of these, but earlier, the little graphic kind of sums it up. This flyer in particular right here is great for new parents. There's a lot of resources, so it is a matter of kind of figuring out what's helpful for you, what resonates with you and the folks that you work with. And don't hesitate to reach out. We also are doing a paid leave outreach collaborative, which you can see behind that, the logo. For that, we are meeting every month on different work groups, and we're doing convenings every 3 months on different intersections of paid leave and other perspectives and topics. If you've been to some of those meetings before, we hope that you found them useful and that you continue to be involved. And if you haven't, come and join us. Any other final questions? Thoughts?
Somebody just put in the chat, they need more advocates that folks can call to guide them through the process.
Absolutely. I
Yeah,
think
and
together we
hopefully,
can make that happen.
Yeah, I'm gonna, in the beginning of next year, I'm also gonna, Yarrow has a Get Support, and I'm gonna open up my Get Support Calendly, if, anyone wants to have a 30-minute one-on-one for more information.
All right, everyone, have a great rest of your week, and hopefully you can rest, recover, heal, and take time to be with your loved ones and enjoy your holiday. And we look forward to being in touch with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you as well.